Okay, so for this Halloween season, I want to talk about one of my favorite games of the NES era. And to be fair, it's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm talking about Friday the 13th for the NES. This is no joke, this is not sarcasm. I genuinely think that this is a very good game. I enjoy it a lot. I feel it has a bad reputation that is completely undeserved. It has a lot going on for a game of the era. It's based on an R-rated movie. It has non-linear gameplay. It has multiple environments. It has a free roaming boss. It has a secret boss. You have multiple characters, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. There's nothing quite like this in the NES. What's not to like, I ask? It is flawed. It is not perfect, certainly. I will address some of the criticism later. But I have very good memories of this game. I rented it all the time as a little kid. It scared the shit out of me, especially that opening intro with the knife going into the eye. I mean, how cool is that intro scene? It speaks volumes. It immediately tells you that this ain't one of those cutesy mascot platformers. You're in for something special. And also when you're exploring the cabins and then you're turning around and then all of a sudden, boom, he's there. That really scared me when I was a kid. So what is this game about? This game is a mix from different elements from the franchise. First of all, the Jason in the cover is from part 7. Pamela's head and the sweater shows up in part 2, famously. The kids' cabin was probably inspired by part 6. There was a kids' cabin in there and Jason enters the cabin and just leaves. He doesn't hurt the kids. He doesn't show the same courtesy in this game. And finally, there's classic weapons from the franchise like the machete, the axe and the pitchfork. You take control of one of 6 counselors, you go around the camp, you fight enemies, you collect items and weapons, and then every once in a while you hear this beeping sound, the Jason alarm. That means that Jason is attacking one of the counselors or the kids' cabin, and you need to go and save them. And if you take too long, he will kill the counselor or some of the kids. And if all your counselors die, or all the kids are killed, then it's game over, as it is perfectly summarized in both death screens. Both of the game over screens are legendary, they live in infamy. Not only have you failed yourself, you have failed those around you. Your friends and the kids, they were counting on you, and they paid with their lives. So the objective of the game is obvious: destroy Jason before that happens. Jason is very tough, so this takes the form of a long battle of attrition. The default weapon doesn't damage Jason very much, so you need to go around collecting more powerful weapons, so you have a better fighting chance. You go around lighting fireplaces and collecting notes, which will give you clues on how to find these weapons. You also find other items like keys and vitamins, which are vital. And when you feel you're powerful enough, your confidence is on the rise, then you fight Jason to the death, and you need to repeat this process 3 times, because you have to defeat Jason in 3 separate days. And that's Friday the 13th NES in a nutshell. So why is this game considered bad? There are a number of problems, for sure, with this game. A common criticism is the repetitive music. On the road, the theme takes the form of a 4-second loop that just goes over and over and over. I will agree, it gets repetitive. But on the other hand, we have the cabin music, which is amazing. I think this is up there with some of the best music in the NES. It's certainly memorable. The Jason attack music is okay, it's serviceable. I'll say it's 50-50 on the music. Another complaint I've heard is that this game has bad controls. This game has smooth silk controls. It's very responsive. It always does whatever you ask it to do. If you make a mistake, it is on you, not the controller. Whoever says this game has bad controls is either lying to you or they don't know how to play this game. Another complaint: zombies have nothing to do with Friday the 13th. They don't, but this is pretty typical of the games of the era. If you remember Batman 89, the game, on the NES, he punched robots. That never happens in the movie, but still, it's a good game. The instruction manual has an explanation for this. It says they are the former victims of Jason. Okay, I'll take it. This game has also angered many because of its difficulty. It's a notoriously difficult game. Yes, it is, especially at the beginning. When you're armed only with the rock and maybe the knife, it's very difficult to take on Jason, but when you learn how to play the game, it gets easier and easier each time. People also complain about the map, that it's very confusing, sometimes left is right, right is left. I'll explain later why. It makes sense when you think about it. I've also heard that it's difficult to navigate the cabins. There's two types of cabins, small and large. They all have the exact same layout. Once you understand how to navigate, it's very easy. And last but not least, I think this is easily the most common source of frustration, is that the cave and the woods are difficult to navigate. You get lost very easily. The cave is not that difficult, it has 3 floors. Each floor has its own very specific geography, so you can pretty much always tell where you are. The woods, well, the woods are a whole different story altogether. For starters, this has 4 areas, and every area looks identical to one another. The paths kinda tell you where you are, if you look close enough, but still, it's incredibly confusing. A simple solution would have been to maybe throw in a tree of a different shape, a dead counselor, one of Jason's past victims, something that tells you at least in which floor you are. On top of that, if you enter a path, and then you decide to re-enter the path, it will send you not to the area where you were, but someplace completely different. This makes no sense whatsoever. I've lost many kids and counselors because of this fact, not because you're not good at the game, but because the layout is all over the place. I will agree 100% with the criticism in this area of the game on navigating the woods. This is inexcusable. With all that out of the way, I will say that overall, the strength of this game far surpasses its flaws. It has a lot more strategy and more depth than one may think. And anyway, those are my thoughts on this game. Let's continue with the strategy guide. The map is made of 3 circles in total. There's the main road, the lake road, and the cave road. There are small and big cabins. There's the lake, which gives you access to the children's cabin. There's a pier on the west bank and the east bank. There's the upper and the lower woods, and there's the cave. So what's up with this map? Why sometimes left is right and right is left? If you're on the main road and you're on the south, left is left, right is right, as it should. And when you reach the middle point of the map, that's when the confusion starts. Remember, you're in a circle, and when you're in a circle, it's better to think clockwise, counterclockwise. If you press left, you go clockwise. If you press right, you go counterclockwise. If the map rotated with you, you would understand it immediately. So if you get to the north of the map, your controller would look like this. It would look like it's upside down. To this day, knowing what I know, I often get confused. Just remember clockwise, counterclockwise, pause often and check your position on the map. At the start of each game, you get to choose one of these 6 counselors: George, Mark, Paul, Laura, Debbie and Chrissy. So who's the best? Who's the worst? Which one gives you the best chance to take down Jason? I've used this footage to measure each one very carefully. There are 5 attributes: jumping, speed, rowing, throwing and spawning. And there are 2 variants per attribute, except for spawning. Mark and Chrissy jump high, George, Paul, Laura and Debbie jump low. Mark, Chrissy and Laura run fast, George, Paul and Debbie run slow. Mark is the only fast rower in the group. George, Paul, Laura, Debbie and Chrissy are slow rowers. Throwing means how many projectiles you can hurl at once. George, Paul, Debbie and Chrissy are strong. Mark and Laura are weak, their projectiles move slower. Spawning refers to how many enemies you have to kill before the lighter pops out. George needs to kill 2 enemies. Mark and Chrissy kill 3 enemies. Paul and Debbie need to kill 4. And Laura needs to kill 5. Here's our final tally. So who's the best and who's the worst? Well, running is by far the most important attribute, and if you combine that with being the only fast rower in the game, I would say Mark is definitely the best, followed very closely by Chrissy. When she's not on the boat, she's marginally better than Mark. Because of her throwing ability, she can put more projectiles on the air. But this ability is only useful at the very beginning when you have the rock. When you get the more powerful weapons, it becomes mostly irrelevant. Then comes Laura. She's still very useful thanks to her speed. After her comes George, thanks to the spawning ability of 2 enemies. And Paul and Debbie are dead last. Once they have the lighter, George, Paul and Debbie are identical to one another. When you're inside a cabin, there's no difference between counselors. The rock is the default weapon. It takes 3 hits to kill a zombie and 5 hits to take a point from Jason's life. It tends to arc over the zombies' heads, take a knee and fire away. The knife appears after you get the lighter. They spawn in predetermined positions. If you jump in the vicinity, they will appear. Here are the locations. It takes 2 hits to kill a zombie and 4 hits to take a point from Jason's life. The machete takes 1 hit to kill a zombie and 3 hits to take a point from Jason's life. There's 4 ways you can get a machete. If you kill 60 zombies, the machete will appear on the air. You can find it in the west cabin in the upper woods. You can get one as a reward for defeating Pamela with the rocks or the knife. And it's in a hidden room in one of Pamela's cabins. The axe takes 1 hit to kill a zombie and 2 hits to take a point from Jason's life. There's 3 ways you can get the axe. There's one hidden in the east cabin in the upper woods. You can get one as a reward for defeating Pamela with the machete. And there's one hidden in a room in one of Pamela's cabins. The torch takes 1 hit to kill a zombie and 1 hit to take a point from Jason's life. There's 3 ways you can get a torch. One method is by picking a note, a very specific one. I'll tell you later on the cabin section. If you defeat Pamela with an axe on day 1, you get the torch as a reward. And finally there's the quick torch method. Go to the tricks and exploits section for full details. The pitchfork is the only unique weapon in the game. You get it as a reward for defeating Pamela on day 3. It takes 1 hit to kill a zombie and 1 hit to take 1 point from Jason's life. The lighter is the very first item you obtain. It appears after you kill a determined number of zombies. Without the lighter, items like knives, keys, vitamins and notes will not appear. The vitamins appear by jumping around the map. Here are the locations. You can use the vitamins to heal a counselor inside a cabin, and they'll bring you back to life with a little bit of health if you fall in battle. The keys also appear by jumping in the air. You need it to open the hidden cabins, and here are the locations. You obtain the flashlight by lighting all the fireplaces. It allows you to see inside the cave. You get the sweater by defeating Pamela on day 2. It functions as armor. You take half damage from all enemies. Small cabins simply host your counselors. Jason attacks your friends in these cabins. If you enter a small cabin and press start, you can switch counselors, including the one under attack. As a kid, I never knew this. You won't believe how many videos I've seen that don't know this either. They try to physically run to the counselor under attack. That's why they lose counselors or children. Knowing this technique makes the game 50% easier immediately. The big cabins have all the fireplaces and notes. They trigger certain events that allow you to collect the more powerful weapons. The first cabin I suggest you go to is the one in the south of the lake road. If you take that note, it triggers 3 events. It makes a note appear in the southwest cabin on the main road, which in turn triggers a machete in one of Pamela's cabins. If you also have the key and the flashlight, a note will appear on the north cabin on the main road, which in turn triggers an axe in one of Pamela's cabins. Finally, it triggers the torch quest. Light at least 4 fireplaces, go to the east cabin on the main road and take the note. Go to the north cabin on the lake road and take the torch. The note in the north cabin of the lake road triggers a note in the east cabin of the upper woods. To reach this cabin, enter the woods through the lake road, go right, and then up twice the first road you encounter. This note makes a machete appear in the west cabin on the upper woods, an axe will appear on the cabin you're currently in, and a torch will appear in the north cabin of the lake road. Now, for whatever reason, sometimes the axe is there the first time you exit the cabin, but most of the time it isn't. To ensure that the axe appears, you need to leave the woods and then return, or enter the west cabin. Follow these directions. Once you have the note, exit the cabin and then go left. Take the road up twice, and then go left and enter the road. Go into the cabin and take the machete. Leave the cabin, go left, take the path, then go right and take the path again. You'll be on the lake road. Pass the machete to another counselor and return to the east cabin in the upper woods. The axe will be there. Exit the cabin and go right, then down, then right and down again. You'll be on the lake road. The north cabin on the main road has a note that also triggers the torch quest. Light 4 fireplaces and go to the east cabin just like before, and take the torch in the north lake cabin. There are other notes, but they don't really do anything. Collect them if you want. Never go into the lower woods. There's nothing on the cabin. All vitamins, knives and keys that appear on the lower woods also appear in the upper woods. If you take one item in the upper woods, its equivalent on the lower woods will disappear and vice versa. Use the machete and the axe quest as an opportunity to stock on vitamins. Finally, there's the Pamela cabins. Cabins, plural, there's 3 of them. You fight her once per day. If you defeat her, she won't appear on the other 2 cabins. The cave is shrouded in darkness. If you have the flashlight, you'll see the entrances to the different areas. You don't really need it. If you look close enough, you'll see that some of the stones are chipped. This is your cue. Follow these directions to reach all cabins. Enter the cave and go left. Enter the first opening you see. This cabin only has Pamela, no other weapons. For the second cabin, enter the cave, go right into the opening, then left and enter the opening. This cabin has the axe if you have collected the note. For the third cabin, enter the cave, go right into the opening. Then continue right, ignore the path, and enter the opening. Then go right, ignore the path, and enter the opening. This cabin has the machete if you have collected the note. Jason Voorhees is a formidable opponent for sure. On the cabin he takes 8 points of life per hit. You start with 32 points of life, which means 4 hits and you're done. On the road he takes 7 points of life if you touch him, and 5 points if he hits you with a projectile. On day 1 he's pretty easy on the cabins. On day 2 he's somewhat manageable on the cabins. It's all about luck. He switches between speeds. If you're lucky he'll never go fast, but if you're unlucky he'll only go fast. On day 3 you should only fight him on the road. He's completely crazy on the cabin. He'll destroy you. Switch to the counselor under attack and leave the cabin. Attack Jason until he leaves. This is crucial, especially on day 3. If you hit him 7 times, he escapes the battle, unless he has 7 or less points of life, in which case he'll fight you to the death. You hear the Jason alarm. If he's attacking a counselor, when the timer reaches 40, they start taking damage. If the timer reaches 0, they'll die. If he's attacking the children's cabin, when the timer reaches 30, he'll kill a kid. If the timer reaches 0, 5 children will be dead. My advice is to fight him exclusively on the cabins on day 1. You want to do all your weapons and vitamin hunting on day 1, when Jason is easy to handle. I suggest you force him outside on day 2 and 3, and pelter him with projectiles until he leaves. Never move left or right while fighting him in the cabin. You can avoid the hits, but it's not worth it. Concentrate on dodging his attacks by pressing down diagonally on the control pad. If for whatever reason you want to fight Jason on the cabin on day 3, you want a perfect game, no dead children, use the counselor with the sweater and then wait for the last possible moment to dodge the attack. If you do it right, he'll miss his double attack and give you an opening to fire back. This timing is really precise. Jason has 2 patterns when moving through the map. He'll switch back and forth between patterns. He's far more predictable than one may think. When it comes to fighting Pamela, you can get about 4 hits right off the bat when she rises from the altar. If you have the machete or better, it takes 10 hits to defeat her. You want to keep moving, don't stay on one spot. Dodging is ineffective in this fight, don't get cornered and you'll be fine. The only thing that changes between days is her dive attack. On day 1 she attacks once per cycle, on day 2 she makes double attacks, and on day 3 she makes triple dives. She takes 5 points of life when she hits you. Overall, I think she's easier than Jason on day 3. As mentioned before, you can force Jason outside a cabin and find him on the road, which comes handy on day 3, but there's always the possibility that he's waiting at the door. There's a way around this. If Jason attacks a counselor, run to the cabin under attack with a counselor holding lots of vitamins and/or the sweater. Enter the cabin and press start. Switch to any other counselor not in the cabin with you. This will make him or she teleport to the other cabin. Now switch to the counselor holding the sweater and the vitamins, and he or she will be in the cabin with Jason. Exit as usual and fight him. If Jason happens to be at the door, at least you have a better chance thanks to this trick. If you're on the road and the screen stops scrolling and the zombies walk away, Jason will show up and attack you. If there's a cabin or a road nearby, you can enter it to escape the battle. You have to do this before he shows up. Just don't re-enter the area immediately or he'll be there. To quickly get the torch, get the lighter and the knife, as well as a key. Go to the north cabin on the lake road and take the note. Then go to the east cabin in the upper woods, but leave once before you enter. Pick the note and return to the north cabin on the lake road. Pick the torch. This can be done very quickly and you'll have one of the best weapons right at the beginning of the game. When you hear the Jason alarm, go to a small cabin but don't enter. Kill all the zombies you can until the timer reaches 41, then enter to switch counselors. You'll rack up on the zombie kills so you get a machete. Very well, I have shared my wisdom and knowledge. Now it's up to you. Fire up your NES and put Jason down once and for all. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please leave a comment. What do you think of this game? Do you share my love for this title, or am I crazy to defend it? All opinions are valid. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.